It's my distinct pleasure to welcome back to the committee's microphone its chairman, Brian Kennedy, former president of the Claremont Institute, and these days the driving force behind the American Strategies Group. Have I got that right? Please join me in welcoming Brian Kennedy.
Thank you, Frank. Good morning, everyone. Not far from here, the subject of impeachment is on everyone's mind, as if the threat to our republic comes from our dealing with Ukraine, such as the nonsense that dominates Washington. If there is a singular purpose of the committee, it is the intellectual reorientation of our national security and political elites to assess, evaluate, and understand the potential threat of the People's Republic of China. If there is good news, it is that this administration is characterized by the common sense and determination of President Donald Trump. The president's national security strategy treats China like a great power competitor, unlike previous administrations. The president dispenses with ideological rhetoric or characterizes China in such a way that, in fact, it's a sober realization that China will act in its own interest, come what may. The common sense of all that points the president to the realization that tough trade deals and an end to the theft of America's intellectual property will need to be matched by a rebuilding of the American military, including the creation of the new Space Force. But there is a political class in Washington, call it the permanent bureaucracy, the deep state, the Washington establishment, the administrative state, some call it, that by and large believes something else. At one point in our diplomatic relations, it was taken as a given that so long as the United States engages with China, they will evolve someday into a free society that respects both the political and economic rights of its people and other nations. That economic freedom will lead inexorably to political freedom. This was held as an article of faith by economic and political conservatives, liberals, American businessmen, and elites on Wall Street who saw the enormous potential of open economic relations between the two most powerful economies in the world. This view, it would appear, has evolved. Now there appears to be little hope that China will become a free and open society. Indeed, now that this appears inevitable, the Washington establishment scorns such naivete and acts as if it never held its earlier opinion. Today, Americans are being asked to accept China's bad behavior as a cost of doing business, or the cost of being part of the global economy. That China will do nefarious things, and that we Americans will merely have to nod and accept these transgressions as the new rules of the road. For instance, during the meeting of this committee this morning, 14 people in America will die from an overdose of fentanyl. This fentanyl comes from the People's Republic of China, as the authorities there abet a narcotics war against the United States. I'm not sure what else you could call it. If any other nation on earth engaged in such activities, we would likely have invaded, for the loss of life would simply have been too monstrous. In the case of China, we are merely to bemoan the fact that these things occur. We are asked, as Americans today, not to be surprised that China represses the citizens of Hong Kong and engages in the violent suppression of democratic protests. We are asked to look the other way as over 1 million Uyghurs in Xinjiang are imprisoned and put in re-education camps. We are asked to accept as inevitable their ongoing military buildup in the islands of the South China Sea, their building of an advanced nuclear arsenal that targets the United States, witness their recent display of the DF-17 missile, and their military alliances and material cooperation with Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Today, the work of this committee has been to illustrate that China is at war economically with the United States and building a military to supplant our global advantage. While the United States has fought wars in the Middle East to the tune of some $3 trillion, the People's Republic of China has been building a military with the capability of challenging and someday defeating the United States. They have built advanced aircraft, the largest army in the world, a navy that is larger than that of the United States, and an arsenal of advanced nuclear ballistic missiles that can destroy America's great cities. They may not be on the same qualitative level as the U.S., but what they lack in technical refinement, they make up for in quantity. The axiom that quantity has a quality all its own is given special meaning when it comes to China. But even here, that may be something of an overstatement. The Chinese fourth-generation fighter aircraft, for instance, demonstrate a quality and lethality that should have American policymakers deeply concerned. Now, let me be clear. President Trump has not characterized China as an enemy. In his mind, they are instead a great nation with enormous potential, both economic and military, especially when it comes to their ability to challenge the United States. Also, as a practical matter, as he engages in negotiations over trade, tariffs, and the theft of intellectual property, it would be impossible to have fruitful conversations after vilifying China as a quote-unquote enemy. But the president has systematically addressed what China has done and what it continues to do. I believe the president is focusing exactly on the right things when it comes to China. The job for his administration is to back him up on that. And we are still seeing that underway. We need to see the Defense Department and the State Department and the Treasury Department follow the president's very tough lead when it comes to all this. Our purpose here today and with the work of the committee is to provide to the media and the Washington policy community the best case for what must be done to address the threat from the PRC. We have assembled an important group of policy experts to help us with that this morning. With that, let me thank you again for coming. Let me thank Frank Gaffney for his vital leadership on this. Thank you.